Syria, not good things happening in Syria. Not a lot of good things. The death toll said to be at 5,400.
Yeah, well, 5,400 when the United Nations basically lost count, and that was at the end of last year, and hundreds, if not more than 1,000 people have died in Syria since then. Today, the local activist groups are reporting 125 people were killed, 65 in what looks like a massacre of people leaving the town of Homs. So it's
And in reaction to that, and all of that, the EU is imposing new sanctions on Syria. Tell us what they are and what they're meant to achieve.
Right, that's true. The EU has sanctioned the Central Bank of Syria, 7 more government ministers that they hadn't previously sanctioned, also signed off on a ban of cargo flights from a Syrian national airline. All of these go along with sanctions that have slowly ratcheted up against the Assad regime over the months in an attempt to pressure him financially. The question is whether this is now effective enough given full-on bloodshed on the streets. We see pictures today of blood literally running on the streets of Homs from one Spanish photographer.
So it seems like it's mostly the restriction to financial access that the international community is going after. What other recourse is there besides that at the moment? Because that's been going on for months, as you say.
Right, that's right. And the question is, the Syrian opposition at this point wants to be armed. There are shipments of arms coming in, small amounts.
From where?
To the Syrian rebels. It's unclear. Nobody has said, oh yeah, we're arming the Syrian rebels, but arms are coming in through Lebanon is one way they're suspected of coming in, also through Iraq, where the Syrian opposition has tribal ties with Iraqis along the border.
So there'd be small arms, would they, not tanks or artillery pieces?
Right, but Qatar today said that they wanted the international community to arm the Syrian opposition, and it was Qatar that was among the first to arm the Libyan rebels. But Syria is not Libya, and this is a real mess at the core of the Middle East.
Is there, with all the bloodshed, I mean, that visual is really horrible. Are international organizations or others, you know, with humanitarian aid efforts able to get in right now or not?
Yes and no. The Syrian Red Crescent is apparently in the city of Homs, and that's where the government has been blasting Homs for about a month, and that's where the biggest casualties are. That's where the Syrian opposition, one of the centers there. So the Red Crescent has apparently gotten in there and evacuated some people. What's unclear is there are 2 Western journalists there, a French journalist and a UK photographer, who were there and wounded and have called for humanitarian evacuation, and it's unclear whether they've gotten out. They were wounded in the same attack that killed 2 reporters there last week.
Yeah, and of course, someone at the Sunday Times, also owned by News Corp, as we was killed last week. Tell us about an election that occurred in Syria within the last news cycle.
Right, there was a referendum yesterday. It was a constitutional referendum that was called by Bashar al-Assad, the president, and he has offered constitutional changes, and some Syrians came out and voted for it and said that this is the way forward, but the opposition has long ago dismissed this as theatrics, basically, and the shelling and the bloodshed continued through this thing. So the international community has basically called it a farce.
Yeah, I think there's a great quote here. One of the UK ministers saying, "This is fooling nobody." I can't find that quote now, but basically it's a great line. Joanna, you were going to jump in.
No, I was just going to say, what are the next things that we should be looking out for? I mean, I know it's a on the ground daily change of situation on the ground, but is there anything that we should be looking at in terms of what the international community can do?
Well, on Friday there was a meeting of about 60 nations in Tunis called the Friends of Syria. They have recognized this umbrella organization of Syrian opposition called the Syrian National Council. They've recognized them, and the question is now whether that sets the stage for setting the stage for some arms or other aid. The international community wants primarily to get humanitarian help in there now, and the question is, would they arm them? The U.S., of course, doesn't want to arm them, basically because Syria is along a fault line in the Middle East between Sunnis and Shiites, to put it simply, and I think nobody's eager to have a sort of proxy war that would pull in Iran on one side and with Russia against the U.S. and Saudi Arabia, and by the way, Al-Qaeda, who's also said that Assad has to go.